Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Thunderstock Show. It's a collection of valuable brainstorms to enhance your life, liberty, pursuit of property. Very excited to announce the first episode of our newest season. This segment is all about getting into the EOS world and specifically how they GWC both their clients and for their clients, businesses, and their own business, as well as how they approach working on their business versus in their business. So, as a marketer, I love this. Today's special guest is Jake Wells. He's a virtual EOSI. He has founded just only 7 companies before the age of 30, and he's out of Boulder, Colorado. Jake, thanks for joining.
Thanks so much for having me, Ross.
So let me ask you something. How did you get involved with what was your first, foray with EOS? Was it on company 7 that you founded, or was it closer to company 1? Or
No,
neither?
I learned the dumb way by having to do it myself. So after my 7 businesses, where eventually I got lucky in a few and started doing what I loved and working with only people that really resonated with me, I discovered it after the fact. So my wife introduced EOS to me. She's a fractional CFO, and half of her clients were running. I know you're a fractional CMO, so I know your world. Half of her clients were running on EOS, and half were not. She's like, "Jake, come on! I like working with these ones. I don't like working with these ones. Read this book." And I read Traction, and then I was annoyed. I was angry after I read it. So I was like, that would have been great had I known that 15 years ago.
Well, it's funny. One of the questions I was going to ask is you describe yourself as a recovering serial entrepreneur.
Yeah,
You
it's a
sold
problem.
everything from
I'm an addict. Yeah.
you sold everything from enterprise software to scooters from China and meat door to door. What was the moment where you realized that, hustle alone wasn't it? Was it when your wife introduced you to Traction and you're like, what the heck?
No, it was after my 4th business where I did a little retrospective and realized I made 17 cents an hour, but I put in 10,000 hours or something like that. I'm exaggerating. I probably
Your wife
made
would
like
kill
3
you.
cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fractional CFO wife knows the actual number. But it was that moment where it's like, yeah, you can't just spread your energy in every direction. You can't just say yes to everything. Like, to say yes to one thing is to say no to a bunch of others. I got really pragmatic and started going one at a time with businesses and had more and more success progressively.
So you spent roughly 7 years moderating 200 private roundtables, a House of Genius, working with anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 entrepreneurs across 20 cities. That's a pretty sizable audience. How did that shape the way that you show up in like your EOS sessions or sort of even networking or talking with people?
Well, I felt kind of like I just did that for the love of the game, right? So I was moderating groups of entrepreneurs, and it felt really, energizing and impactful. And yeah, I was the founding moderator of House of Genius, which was started in Boulder, and we grew to 30 cities and 3 continents. What it clicked is I always had this thing about like, oh, I would never do that for money. That's like a red line right there. I'm just doing it because I love it, because I enjoy it.
Right.
It's pure. It doesn't get messed up. But then after my wife had introduced me to EOS, it was this intersection of entrepreneurship, moderation, and then also being paid for what you love and what you're good at and what's good for the world. It was the ikigai is that concept, the
I
intersection of those
love
4
that book.
things.
It's hanging right there on my
Oh
bookshelf. You
yeah,
can't see it.
it's good. Best Venn diagram. I'm going to just go out on a limb and say.
I love it.
Um,
So speaking of Ikigai, this is a perfect segue into the GWC filter because I
mm,
feel like the exercise in that book, for those of you that don't understand what we're talking about when we say this Japanese term, there's 4 larger circles on the outside. I'm going to do my best to quote it, but you fill in
yeah.
the gaps if I forget. Like, so some of the things like, what are your passions? Like, what do you love? What does the world need? What can you be compensated for? And what are you really good at? I think those are the
Mhm,
4. And then
mhm.
somewhere in the middle is your sweet spot. I think in a roundabout way, GWC is a filter that EOS talks about, which means gets it, wants it, has capacity, as well as you combine it with core values. I think they're accomplishing a similar goal, but for different ones, more introspective ones looking at an accountability chart in an organization. How did you end up at like using that Ikigai concept to then realize, this is my DNA. This is what I'm meant to do. That's self-awareness.
Well, I think it was the other way around, wasn't it? It was like I found myself doing something, and then I put myself through the test.
Mm.
And if you could have 2 or 3 of those things that you mentioned, like that's amazing. A lot of people don't. Maybe they have 1 or 2. If you can have all 4, that's the thing. And I like your analogy here with GWC. I don't think it's a perfect match, but I think there's a parallel there. It rhymes. It resonates with me. Like, are you in the right place doing the right thing?
Yeah. And I think, one of the things that I can relate to you. We're talking about the love of the game, right? Is there was a period of time where in my 20s, instead of starting a bunch of companies, I started a couple, but it was more later. I had an ambition to be a UFC fighter. So I was in the MMA world. You can't tell because of the headphones on, but I've got pretty gnarly ears. So what happened when I got knocked out for the nth time, who knows how many times I had
Yeah.
concussions, probably I'm glad that I stopped now as I got older. I realized I still wanted to be involved. So I started podcasting, and it was just to talk to people that were also fighters that wanted to get promoted. Some of those people have gone on to get, their professional contracts. One of the guys I actually went to school with is on the UFC card coming up. Not that he was my podcast guest, but it's been pretty cool to help people kind of develop and through that way. And now I do it for business, and it's not necessarily like I don't feel like I'm selling out. I feel like I've just transitioned. How have you? Um, how do I say? How have you tried to transition the things that you loved about the roundtables, House of Genius, and gone into your next chapter of being, full bore, full speed ahead USI?
Well, it sounds like you've really identified the crux of what the thing was that you were drawn to, and you got rid of some of the fluff. So that's interesting how you can develop down that line. But your question, I found that like EOS was just more of the same in the way that I wanted. So it was what I was already doing, but it was more impactful. It was really as simple as that. I was like, how can I be of greater value when I meet with people? And previously when I was doing House of Genius, it felt like it's great. We were a few hours together. Maybe we helped you understand some new things, but there was no follow through. There was like some missing ingredient, this piece where it's like, so what? They can just write this off and like, oh, great, great meeting. But now I'm parachuting in every 3 months. And it's like, hey, remember when we talked about those things that are really important? Are those still important? What's the gut check on that?
Mm,
Does that feel like BS from last time? Like we're going back in time. Does that still feel right? And then, okay, what did we do last quarter? What are we going to do this quarter? Like, look me in the eye and tell me that you want to be here.
One of the things that I asked you about off camera, you said that one of your discovery filters is specifically around EOS, right? Was pain, if I had to boil down to one word.
Mm,
And not having EOS feel like extra credit than more than like, necessary like an investment. What are some of the like I've experienced this as a fractional CMO and business owner where it's like when on both sides of the table, if I receive something of a lot of value, but it's free, I don't like really cherish it as much than if I
yeah,
like actually invest in it. And then same thing, like when I've done a lot of free work as a fractional CMO to help people. And those people they don't really appreciate it. But then when I have a
yeah.
fully invested client, they're like taking notes. They're like calling me, hey, I did I did this, I did that. This is great. And how do you communicate, I guess if I had to say the one word, pain, or make people feel it when it comes to that discovery world, getting that aha, getting the accountability, right? Because I think a lot of accountability is just changing how someone adapts to that negative stimulus to then make
Yeah.
better for their companies themselves.
Honestly, it's not my job to have you feel pain. I'm not trying to manufacture anything. I'm looking for
Right.
people who are looking for me, kind of thing. So like some people have been like, "Hey, convince me. I don't like EOS. I think I'm perfect. Tell me why I should do EOS." No, thanks. Like you can go read Traction. I'll give you a free copy here. I've got 30 copies right here. Send me your address. But like
Right.
that's not it. You have to be without me feeling like I can't keep doing this. Like otherwise, like it doesn't matter. EOS is the wrong thing. There's no solution for you. It's like you're not going to
Right.
go
You're
to
not miracle workers.
yeah. It's like you go to the doctor and you're like, I'm perfect. He's like, okay, and bye.
Bye. So what then is or are some of the pain points? I know you've said like who, not what you've worked
Yep.
with. And, another thing is, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, is these virtual sessions. So how do you kind of connect with people and find the who, not the what, especially in virtual, like the virtual landscape?
Might need to parse those out a little bit because maybe there's two different questions in there. But the words I hear a lot, like I can relate to entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneur. I've beat my head against the wall a lot. I've gotten punched in the mouth and had to get up over and over again. So I think there's just a baseline. I get there. I've been there. It's hard. Business is hard. Whoever has the romantic version of business got real lucky a lot of times. Good for you. Fantastic. Please do that. If you can choose, just do that. But there's a lot of burnout. There's just like a can't get through to this next level. Like anything I've ever tried, I can't get beyond $4 million in revenue. I can't get beyond, 10% in profit, like try as I might. And they're just like turning into this victim sort of mentality. is a very
Mm.
common theme that I feel. It's like, well, the economy and then the prices are going up. And it's like, okay, like how much control do you feel like you have your business? None, very little. Right. And it's like, that's the pain, right? Like, what if you did business on purpose instead of business on accident?
Interesting. Interesting. So the pain is people feel like they don't have control of their business. And the thing you identified is, look, let's focus on what you can control
Yep,
to alleviate this. Yeah, I love that.
absolutely.
So you've described your ideal client as, real, fun, hungry. Unpack that. What does real mean in your terms? What does that mean to you?
Real means like whether we're virtual or we're in person, you are not a BS person. You don't just say
Hmm.
stuff. There's some organizations I've seen that are very bureaucratic. They walk on eggshells. They don't say what they mean and mean what they say.
Right.
And there's reasons for that. Just I'm not your guy. You will hate me. Don't work with me. That I'm the wrong guy for you. But if you're the type that I've seen people who, have read a lot of self-help books, they're pro therapy, they're couples counseling, they have a coach, they've explored that world of self. They meditate a lot, something like that, where I'm challenging folks to be authentic. And if you can show up and just be your real self and say stuff, and a good example is sometimes you say something. I'll speak for myself. Maybe you don't do this, Ross, but sometimes I say something and I'm like, no, I take that back. I just had to say it out loud. Actually, I don't identify with that.
I'm the king of saying exactly what I'm thinking or feeling.
Yeah,
And then be like, let's unpack that. This is what I really mean to give context. Like,
yeah, that's okay. But
now,
like, there's kind of like an emotional vulnerability where we're all,
but
good
it's
faith, putting in an effort. Like,
we're all human and we're all messy, right? We have to
that's
work
true.
together to make order out of the chaos. And that's the whole point. If you already have order, it's the same thing as going to the doctor when you're perfectly healthy, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, you have all your ducks in a row. What am I here for? Like,
So
let's
real, totally.
go ahead.
Real to me just simply means you're willing to say what you really think out loud in front of other people, which is some people are like, yeah, duh, great. Let's work together. Fun is I'm just looking at all the clients I've worked with. There is so much laughter and smiling and like we're in there and there's like a looseness and a lightness that just exists in the room. And that kind of allows us to go even deeper and be more real. So these are just patterns that I've seen. Maybe it's a coincidence, but real, fun. And then hungry means they want to change. Right. So what we talked about earlier, like you're not here to check a box. Some people think EOS is like, oh, there's 8 questions of a VTO. Give me 20 minutes. I'm going to go to the bathroom and come back with all the answers. Like, great. That is not what we're doing here. EOS is a team sport. We got to get in here and debate it, discuss it, have multiple iterations.
Yeah, I think it comes back to Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions,
Mm,
right? It's like, hey, we can't fix a dysfunction if you can't admit it that like
yeah.
it exists. And I think that starts with being real. And then also, fun is a consequence of if we're all real. And then hungry is if we're being really honest with where we're at, where we want to be. It's like, hey, let's do the good work to get there. It sounds like that's kind of a lot of the joy that comes out from your sessions.
But there's a big question with that hungry one though, and it's a real question, which is, do you actually want to change? Are you willing to actually change? Like take sleep on it, do some soul searching, come back to me with an answer, because an answer might be no, right? And that's okay.
Yeah, from my own experience, I've worked with businesses that in all earnest had super ambitious BHAG goals. Like if you only judge them from where they were at today, like that's crazy. But guess what? They 10x their business in 2 years and they're still not even close to their BHAG. Whereas
Hmm.
I've talked to businesses that wanted to grow by 25% in 10 years and they weren't a huge company and it was like very underwhelming and they didn't grow at all. They stayed flat the whole time. So I think I kind of get the sentiment of what you mean by like the hungry, where it's like, hey, let's see what's possible. So when it comes to GWCing, like I kind of get the core value part, but what are some of the things about clients that really make an ideal fit for you? I know we touched on the virtual. I kind of want to expand upon, like what makes virtual your thing versus a lot of other people want to, either stay in their backyard or travel to other locations. Why virtual? Why that setting?
Yeah, let's circle around the virtual part to start.
Yeah.
So there's this big misconception I feel like that the only way to do any good work if we're going to have a full day session together, well, we have to be in person. And challenge, I don't think so. I think people are trying to do other stuff instead of what we're trying to do. So to back up a second, I think virtual gets a bad rap, but so do meetings in general. So when you put them together,
Mm,
virtual meeting, like scared, like 8 hours on Zoom. What? That sounds terrible. That's because they haven't done it before, right? And it is
mhm.
scary. But the persistent feedback that I get after doing 1 or 2 sessions with people. Number one, we have ground rules. Your camera is on, your mic is on. We take breaks as we need it. If you're here, you're here. We're present. But bring me back to my train. Us.
Well, yeah, my thing is like, how did you land on virtual as being your preference? Whereas a lot of people really prefer, in person. And what kind of company works best for a virtual environment versus the ones that are just like, you know what, it's not for me.
Yep. So there's some kinds of companies. If you have a dispersed leadership team,
Hmm.
some of your leaders live in other states or countries, then it just doesn't make sense. But I see people trying to force it. No, we're going to fly everybody in from around the world. Like I had a client that was in Bolivia and Colombia and the Philippines. And it's like, why on earth would you spend 2 or 3 or 4 days to gather everybody in person? Like, do you understand the opportunity cost of that? And I feel like they just don't do the calculus on it, like the time and the money and the energy. And then what is the purpose, do you think, of doing a full day session? Well, it's to rub elbows and hug and sing kumbaya and like really get some stuff, team building done. And it's like, that's cool. You should totally do that. You should do that for sure.
That's
Go
a
do that.
leadership retreat.
That is a leadership. Yeah. But we're here to get this agenda done and these objectives. And
Hmm.
like, if we're going to spend 8 hours, we only have to spend 8 hours virtually. So get in your own office, turn all the distractions off, and instead of like singing and saying kumbaya, we're going to get some stuff done.
Yeah, I
So,
had a
so
client
that's
early
just like,
on.
you go ahead. Yeah.
No, just to piggyback off that point, I had a client very early on in my fractional CMO business that absolutely required that I be there for like a day out of the week. And I said, okay, we'll do that for the first like 60 days to accomplish the goal that you wanted me to do, which is build rapport with the team. But after that, we'll do virtual. And guess what happened after we went virtual? Way more efficient, more got done in less time. There was like no bad blood or any issue with the kumbaya or the feeling part of it. And I think the sentiment at the end was shared on both sides. Like, why don't we just do virtual the whole time? So I can relate when it comes to, focusing on the essential
Yeah,
parts.
and you asked who's well equipped for that. I see a lot of younger teams. It's becoming the trend where you have a dispersed leadership team. You're not like, oh, we're coincidentally geographically close, therefore we should be in business together. They're like, I've got my pick of any CMO in the nation. Ross is in Pennsylvania. I'm in Colorado. I like Ross. Let's work with them. But, a lot of
Yeah.
software companies, a lot of technology companies.
It kind of opens up the playing field too to choose the best implementer, not the most convenient one.
100%.
So going to looking at the best, I want to also touch on working on your business, working in your business. A lot of business owners that I talk to in 2026 still today are in this almost like treadmill hamster wheel cycle where they're very, very busy, whether that's doing networking events or, just being there in person. And like you said, not really calculating the energy and the time it takes to do that in order to drum up business. Your best leads come from client referrals, yes. Um,
Yeah.
but also your sphere of influence and LinkedIn is part of some of the places you get leads. What are some of the ways that you've kind of learned to generate pipeline or generate business that doesn't require you to break? Yeah, I call it eating your own dog food, right? Like you're a virtual
Yeah.
USI. Like, how do you build pipeline virtually?
Yep. So one of the lessons to lead into that I've had to learn over the last 5 years doing this 100% of my professional time is the things that deplete me a lot, I should stop doing. It's like I can only do so many of them. So like going out in the world and joining every networking event and doing coffee dates in person, like I added it up and I was like, this didn't really move the needle and I hated it. Oof. So it's so easy to stay in that mindset of like, well, I have to do all this stuff because there's a non-zero chance it might work. And it just can't work. There's such an opportunity cost. But it
Right.
took me years to actually buy that and believe it. Right. So, I've focused on 2026, for example, as this is the year of client referrals. If I'm getting lots of client referrals, then I'm doing something right. If I'm not, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm letting that be my guiding light. So I'm in the active process of kind of pruning lots of things that I have been doing and focusing mostly on that.
I love the active process of pruning things that don't work. I feel like, as we touched on earlier in our conversation, learning from pain is one of the greatest teachers, right? You can't avoid it. But it also helps, from a marketing lens, identify what's my ideal client. And if you have somebody, and I'll just make up a fictitious one. It's like, let's say their name's James. They're a 40-year-old B2B SaaS founder. They're based out of San Francisco, but they've got team all over the country doing 30 million. They want to get to 100 million. And he really likes golf, right? And if that is who your current best
Yeah.
client is, and you get a referral, they probably like him in some ways, right? Like
Yeah. Right.
typically like attracts like. So I'm going to flip that to you and say, you know, if I was a referral person and I said, you got to talk to Jake, what are some of the things that you would say to like a referral partner of yours to say what makes you different from another implementer? Like what is your own ideal client profile in your own lens? Like what are the things about you? Background, style, rapport, confidence, those kind of things.
Yep. So I've done this sort of analysis on all my previous clients, and I can't share my screen. We're on a podcast; nobody could see it. But I thought that there's got to be an industry in here, right? And I listed all my industries and all my clients. And I was looking for the pattern, and like there truly isn't one, Ross. And I was so frustrated in the beginning. It's like I thought that I was the software guy or the tech guy, and it's just completely industry agnostic. But to your question, I'd say I don't know if this is a selling point, but like between me and you, Ross, nobody else is listening. I'm really snobby. I try to put on the absolute best EOS experience A to Z that's available. I only do virtual, or you come to me in my session room in Boulder, and I control everything. You're going to enter my kingdom, and I'm going to, take you by the hand and guide you through. Like I know what works and what doesn't work after doing hundreds of these full day sessions. But I'd also lean on the real, fun, and hungry. Those are three buzzwords that have to be in there in that conversation.
And it goes back to something we discussed earlier, it's really not what industry they're in. It's like, who is the founder? Like, what are
Yeah.
they like? I've done the
Hmm.
same experiment. I try to do that with my clients. Some people take to it a lot easier than others. They don't like to look at their client list and say, who's your favorite? But
Yeah.
it's almost like Ikigai too, when you're coming with an ideal client profile for, your own brand versus the ones you want to attract and work with. It's like, all right, who are some of the ones that are, the most fun to work with? We get the best results with, we just enjoy, I really, we like working together. We have a good relationship, and then they pay on time, all those things. But then at the end of the day, it's like, as long as you get people that you can write down the characteristics of why you like them, like what it is about it, that's what matters, not the industry specific or whatever, not the demographic.
Yeah, so in EOS, what do we do? It's the fourth question on the VTO. It's a marketing strategy, and the first
Mhm.
subsection is the ideal client. I mean, obviously, you're super familiar being in the CMO world and like
Right.
knowing so much about EOS, but we do geographic, demographic, and psychographic characteristics of your ideal client profile. And I
Yep.
kind of skipped the first two. Geography, I don't care. America
Yep.
probably,
Online,
but
right?
whatever. Demographic, I kind of don't care either. Psychographic, I'm all psychographic. I'm like
Right.
100% psychographic.
And as long as you choose one, I think that, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, if someone can choose all three, very specific. But again, you could be specific, but then inaccurate and not be right. But as long as you choose one and you're right on, I think that's what matters. Now, you've been behind the curtains at like hundreds of companies, thousands of companies. Talk to these founders. What is one thing founders consistently overestimate, and then what is one thing they consistently underestimate when it comes to growing a business?
They overestimate their idea.
Mm,
Ideas are common. Who cares about your idea? Somebody else has the same one versus the people that you have on your team, the connections that you have, the ability to actually manifest a vision. And I think they underestimate, and I am guilty of this as well. I don't know if you do it too, but I think I can do way more than I can in a small amount of time.
I've lost countless hours of sleep believing that I can do all the things in a
I
condensed
still
period of
believe it. He
time.
says that I'm saying this. I'm like, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I've done a certain thing 10 times, and the time I did it the fastest and best is always my benchmark. Like if I drove down to Boulder in 17 minutes one day, even though it takes 26 minutes, like that's how long it takes for me to drive down the hill. 17
I'm
minutes. Yeah.
I could that is amazing, right? So the time blindness is universal. I'm glad I'm not alone. I'm glad I asked. So they overestimate ideas, underestimate time. Beautiful. And if the last question, I guess, is if you could hand every founder one thing, one honest, unfiltered page that was the real manual for entrepreneurship, like what would it be on it? And you can't just say retraction. It's gotta be a one pager.
I got nothing for you, Ross. I mean that rings of there's some magical answer, and I haven't discovered that. Yes, I've read hundreds of books on this topic, and gosh, I wish I had a thing. I don't think there's a thing, Ross. Like the one page. Gosh, like wish I had something for you, man.
Well, I've thought about this question a little bit since the beginning, and my answer would be first, there's not just one page.
Yeah,
Second, it's simple, not easy. And then
yeah.
third, like talk to people and listen and kind of get out of your own head. Cause what you said before, which is they overestimate their ideas without getting enough maybe market feedback or repetitions. Like you've founded 7 companies. If I'm going to talk to you about, starting a company, I would rather talk to somebody who's done it 7 times than somebody
All
who's
right.
thought about like these. There's a lot of people that I've talked to, and I mean this sincerely for everyone listening. This is not to be disparaging whatsoever, but it's like I want people to listen to this interview and then take action, right? So
I got
anyway,
something. I've
yeah,
got something. You ready? Okay, here's
take me for a ride.
my few words that I would advise anybody trying to get in the entrepreneur game. It's try, be humble, and then try again. Just repeat that over and over again.
See, let's go. Everyone,
Yeah.
that applies to everyone. That's universal. I love that. And the last thing, more specific to business growth, it's like in 2026, how do you plan to work on your business more or more efficiently as opposed to working in your business? Because I've met founders out there that might love doing specific tasks, like doing the thing, right? But then they might have goals or ambitions for their business and it's like they're not correlated. So you know the difference between working on your business and your business. Like, what is your plan for doing that more so or efficiently in 2026?
I mean, I've got my typical cadence, right? Like we drink our own Kool-Aid. I do EOS. I have quarterly rocks. I have
Yep.
yearly goals that directs me. I mean, I can tell you the big things is this epiphany that I've had that I must focus on the absolute best client experience, and client referrals is my thing. That's going to free me up. That's all my time. So honestly, I don't have a working on the business problem. I have a working in the business problem. I'm a visionary and I'll go write papers about all the stuff that I should do. This time, I've only got a couple little things that are my guiding lights. And it's really more about just doing it and executing for me.
I actually love that answer because I'm probably similar to you in that way, where it's like I'm great at coming up with a plan,
Hmm.
but then it's like when it's time to do it, it's like, let's go up with another plan. So
Yeah.
previously, it's like, no, let's just do the plan to the end, and then that's the time. And sometimes there is that balance where you have to work in your business enough in order to work on your business. So that's a thoughtful answer. I appreciate that. Last question, not super deep. I know we're right around time. Is how can people get in touch with you? If they want a virtual EOSI or just to connect, how can people find you?
I mean, I guess they could just email me, jake.wells@eosworldwide.com. They could Google me, Jake Wells EOS. Hopefully that leads somewhere proper. I'm on LinkedIn. Uh, yeah, Jake Wells.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jake. And thank you, everyone listening. Until next time, keep focusing on being well. And again, stay humble and try again. Thank
Thanks.
you.